Hello and welcome to Tomi Talks TV. I have one singular goal with this show, and that is to help you make smarter decisions so that you can have better relationships. I'd like to say a massive thank you for all your likes, your shares, and your comments on Facebook, on Instagram, on YouTube. Honestly, I really appreciate it because what you're helping us do is that you're helping us spread the message further, faster. So thank you very much indeed. Now, today I wanted to just take some time to share with you on what I've titled Givers, Takers, and 50-50 Lovers. Now, several years ago, I read a book by Stephen Covey, and I think it was titled 7 Habits of Highly Successful People. And one of the things that he said in that book was he was talking about relationships and saying essentially that, relationships are a bit like a bank. So when you make positive actions in a relationship, everything that you do that is a positive action in a relationship is essentially a deposit into that relationship. And then anything that you do that is a negative in that relationship is essentially a withdrawal from that relationship. And that got me thinking, because essentially what that means to me is that everything that you do positively in your relationship, in your marriage, whether it's a smile, a word of encouragement, a word of blessing, you do something that's unexpected for your whoever you're partnering with in that relationship, that's a deposit in the relationship. But everything that we do, every unkind word, every negative thing that we do, negative actions, all those things are withdrawals from the relationship. And essentially what that does is that if we keep withdrawing and we're not putting in or we're not depositing into the relationship, eventually at some point the relationship will go bankrupt. The reality is that no relationship will thrive where there are endless withdrawals without commensurate deposits into that relationship. So over time, you find that the relationship, begins to head towards disintegration because there's just been withdrawals, and no deposits in that relationship. So one crucial question I'd like you to ask yourself today is this: am I a giver, a taker, or a 50-50 lover in my relationships? Because each one of us, we have our own private concept of love, how we see love, what love is supposed to be like, and that dictates how we relate in our relationships, how we treat the other person in our relationships and all that. So it's well worth thinking about, how do I actually see love? What's my concept of love? And how do I come across in the way that I relate in my relationship? So somebody that is a taker in a marriage will essentially expect that marriage be a relationship of convenience. So for them, marriage is about what they can get out of the relationship. So they enter marriage with a consumer mindset, and it's all about, well, it's my way or the highway. So, for somebody who's a taker, love is spelled SELF, which is self. So it's all about self. It's what about what I can get out of the relationship, what the other person is doing for me, whether they're meeting my needs or whether they're not meeting my needs. Now, I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with somebody meeting your needs, because that's one of the reasons why we enter into a relationship. You do expect that your needs should be met. But, at the end of the day, if your focus is just on your needs being met, then you become a needy person, and needy people can become exhausting to live with. So you've got to think about it. Am I just a taker who's constantly thinking about what my spouse is not doing, what they should be doing for me, how they should be making me happy and all that, and everything is focused on what I can get out of the relationship? If you have that kind of mindset about marriage or about a relationship, then you will not enjoy the best that God has designed for you to experience in that relationship. And eventually the partner in the relationship just gets exhausted with all the withdrawals and no deposits, and the relationship goes bankrupt. Now, the other way which people approach, a relationship is what I call 50-50. So these are 50-50 lovers in a marriage. So 50-50 lover is essentially someone that views a marriage as a contractual arrangement. So essentially it's all about, well, I do this, you do that, you do this, I do that. That's the way they view marriage, and for them, ultimately they look at it like, well, that is a fair proposition. So, I will hold up my part in the marriage as long as you continue to do your part in the marriage, which seems fair enough, it seems perfectly logical. But you see, the challenge about, 50-50 love is that sometimes your spouse may not be in a position to meet all your needs the way you desire for them to meet those needs. So it might be anything. It might be that they're under particular stress, at a point in time time. It might be that maybe they face a particular challenge. Maybe they've lost their job and they can't meet your financial needs. Or it may be that maybe the person is unwell, they can't meet your sexual needs, or for some reason maybe they're not completely upholding their end of the bargain. You see, if you view marriage as a contractual thing, then it's easy to get weary in those seasons or times when it looks like your spouse is not meeting all your needs. But you see, viewing marriage from a contractual perspective becomes really, really difficult to enjoy, because that is essentially just a storybook idea of marriage. It's a fairy tale idea of marriage, and it cannot stand up to the realities of real life and the challenges that we face in real life. So what would I suggest that you do? If you approach marriage from a giver perspective, you will enjoy the fullest of what God designed for you to enjoy in marriage. So givers see marriage as a covenant relationship, and they give for the joy of giving. They give for the delight of knowing that someone else who, their spouse in that marriage is, receiving something, and that fills them with joy. You see, and the Bible does say that it's more blessed to give than to receive. A giver understands that God spells love as Give. So it's all about, giving and pouring out my heart. And there is no better marriage than when both partners enter into the marriage with a mindset of giving. So you don't have one person that's constantly consuming and the other person that is constantly giving. Rather, they both enter the marriage with the mindset of, look, I'm going to outdo you with my giving and pouring out my heart to be a blessing to you. Because ultimately, marriage was designed to be enjoyed, and we enjoy the most out of a relationship when we're giving into that relationship. So if you're prepared to give all that you have on the inside of you to be a blessing, to extend yourself a bit further, to reach out to meet the needs of your spouse, to listen in and hear the heartbeats that their heartbeat and what it is that they're really longing for, and meeting it without holding back, not with the sense of, well, let me see what you're going to do if I do this, let me see what you're going to do and how you're going to respond, but rather you're pouring out your heart to be a blessing to the other person. You will be blessed in your deed. You see, and the beauty of approaching love from this perspective is that you don't have to worry about the future of your love, because if you do today what you need to do in investing yourself in that relationship, in pouring out your love for your spouse, then you will reap the rewards, and you will reap the joy and the peace and the fulfillment that comes out of being a giver in a relationship. So I pray for you that your marriage will be marked by giving, that both you and your spouse will approach marriage from a giving mindset, and you will enjoy the fullness of what God wants you to enjoy in marriage. Well, I hope this has helped you. If this has helped you, then please leave me a message on Facebook, on Instagram, or YouTube, or wherever it is you're watching. And if you've got a question you'd like me to answer, then head on over to tomitalks.com/ask, and I'll answer your question next time. See you next time. Bye-bye.